words of Google, just like move fast and break things. Like just go for it. Give it your all, your 110%. Have no regrets. You don't want to be like looking back in the future and being like, I wish I could, I wish I would. No, just like do it. And if it goes well, great. If it doesn't, well, at least you tried.
Hi guys, my name is Marcel and I'm here today with Sheraz and we will talk about his life and how he came into the blockchain space. First question, right at the start, what's your catchphrase?
My catchphrase has to be luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah, of course now we are super interested. Why?
Because I believe that there are certain portions of luck that you can define yourself, and that I believe you don't have to leave everything up to chance. You can positively impact your luck, which is something that Napoleon Bonaparte said once, is that stick to those that are lucky because they are doing something right. And there is this element of when you work hard and you try to be active. For example, here we're at the ETH Zurich conference, right? Those individuals that on a Sunday have the tenacity to go out, learn, connect with people, are going to be in a better position to find potential collaborators, partners, clients, than potentially those that are sitting in front of Netflix. So I definitely believe that you can prepare yourself to find the opportunities and to find, to a certain extent, your luck.
I completely agree, and of course we will find out more in this podcast. Let's start with your childhood. Where have you been grown up?
So I was born in the UK, raised there, and then moved to Switzerland at a young age, where I did a lot of my primary and secondary education. Not the easiest, speaking English, no French, going into let's say a duality of mixed and private and public schooling, but like trying to learn French, being there involved and trying to communicate with sign languages and the likes, and then picking that up slowly but surely, which I'm sure we'll come back to, but I think definitely defined a lot of the way in which I was able to self-teach myself a lot in the future. And so learning French in Montreux, in Switzerland, there in the public schooling system, and then slowly when kind of deciding, okay, what do I want to then do? Am I looking at doing either an apprenticeship, going to university and the likes? I think university was always the one that was on the cards for my parents, and I think definitely one for myself. I think it's pushed a lot, let's say, in Western kind of media or like movies about going to university, the parties, the independence, all of that. And so I did have this little dream of wanting to go back to the UK to study and to go and enjoy a little bit there. And I was able to make that dream come true, wherein I went to Lancaster University. I did an interesting dual Bachelor of Business Administration. So I did 2 years at Lancaster University and 2 years at La Universidad Pontificia de Comillas in Madrid. And it was great because I did 2 years and 2 years, 150% credits each year, which meant that I graduated with 2 degrees. And I was able to learn Spanish in the latter 2 years of the program. So it was a really great experience, and I definitely recommend it to anyone being able to do that. And we'll speak more about it shortly, but I definitely believe that those experiences there and what I was able to learn, enjoy, allowed me to do a lot of what I do today.
Mm-hmm. Let us go a little bit deeper in your early childhood. Let's say at around an age of 10, 11, 12. What was a typical day for you?
I was very sporty, more than I am today. It was definitely something that I loved doing. I had a lot of energy, even, some would consider too much energy, which definitely impacted a lot of, let's say, the classroom. So it was definitely, going to school. I had a lot of sports related hobbies. I think I tried practically every type of sport, from rugby to swimming to badminton to skiing and the likes. And so it was several like clubs of like going to an after school club at 5, 6, and then actually another one at like 7, 8, and then going home. I did play a lot of video games growing up. I think it is definitely something that carved a lot of who I became today. I played a lot of MMORPGs, so multimedia role-playing games, which to some extent enact a little bit what the metaverse is kind of doing now with a value economy attached to it. But it allowed me to understand, okay, like what is commerce, right? What is communication, social skills? How can you build and create things together? What is the value of spending time doing something specific? And I think there are a lot of parallels to real life that can be sewn towards that. And I definitely believe from those experiences there that the world can be seen as just a bigger and a larger role playing game.
True. Now we spoke about your, let's say, free time. How was school for you? Did you even like it?
Yeah, I really like going to school. I mean, I wasn't necessarily the most studious of students, but I love the social element of it. Definitely, all of my friends were there. The ability to go. I practically never missed a day of school. I had a super high attendance. Was there every day. It was quite religious actually. I would, even when I was a little bit under the weather, I would always go. And I definitely believe that I did learn various things. I hope at least, but I wasn't the most studious. I definitely loved to go for the friends, for the classes that were more interactive. I think the modern kind of ways of schooling are very difficult, where you're sitting in these wooden chairs. We were laughing about it before here. Being at the universities, or thinking like, how could you even sit for lectures for 2 hours in these wooden chairs? Like today would be very difficult for me to do so. And so back then, I think the environment wasn't always the most prosperous for a good education. And I hope they're able to evolve that a little bit in the future. But they were great times overall.
Mm-hmm. What was your experience with teachers? What was maybe your favorite teacher?
Their experience with me. Yeah, I mean, some better than others. I think there were a few elements to it. Because I had a lot of energy, I ended up getting quite distracted, maybe not being the best of students sometimes, and I think that was quite difficult for some of my teachers. There were a few teachers that saw the potential that I had, in terms of, when you're teaching a large classroom, 30, 40 people, it's not so large, but let's say it's big enough to not be able to give independent review to each one of the students. And I think when you're teaching, let's say 30, 40 people about maths in particular, you're not able to go into so much granularity, or for it to be so extensive, because everybody needs to follow that. And I think once I kind of got what it was, you couldn't just leave the classroom, or you couldn't move on to something else. You had to continue doing those 20 math problems, where after the third, fourth one, you understood what the rule was, and then you could apply it. And so I think due to that, I ended up getting more distracted, and it was a bit more difficult. And then there were moments in my schooling where it was a little bit of a negative spiral, where I believed that I could play catch up faster than maybe I could, because of course you do need to study a little bit as well. And there were periods where it was much more difficult. But I am definitely appreciative of some of the teachers that I had that were there, could maybe see some of that underlying talent that I had for some of the subject matters, and supported me in getting to where I am today. I think your education does set a strong foundation for who you do become, and it did help me to carve out some of the ideas and the way in which I work as well.
Mm-hmm. What was your favorite subject?
Wow, that's if I tell you sport, that's not going to be indicative of much. I mean, it depends at what stage. I liked the various subjects where I could express myself. Like, let's say, the arts was always quite interesting. the areas of study that we could interact, presentation based, that we could debate to a certain extent with one another. I did really like economics when I was in secondary school. I liked a lot like the psychology based, like human study based um, topics. And yeah, those were the best. But I would definitely say that it could have been really any one of them, but it really depended on who the teacher was. I think, if I didn't have such a great economics teacher in secondary school, even though maybe I was a bit more like leaning towards that, I think maybe I wouldn't have taken the path that I did. And so I do believe, and hopefully for any of the teachers listening, that it really is in the teacher's hand to give that motivation to the curriculum that they might have and to what they're looking to teach to their students. And that gives me on another line of thought and parentheses that I want to open. It is this kind of element of, that study really can be very transformational for a young for a young mind as well. And I was very fortunate to have role models at home, but I think there were individuals within my classroom that maybe didn't have those and looked towards their professors, their teachers for that. And it is a really important role in today's setting.
I completely agree. And even if you account in the young age of a person, how much influence and how much time you spent in school, it can really decide your path in life. If you go later to the A levels, is it similar structure to Germany in Switzerland? And how was your experience with that?
Yeah, so we have Gymnase or Gymnasium as it's like an A levels. If I'm not mistaken, A levels in the UK is 2 years. In Switzerland, it's 3. And they have a bit more of a generalist approach. They have 12 subjects, which is quite a lot when you're looking for a little bit of granularity. And so I decided to do an international baccalaureate, which is actually 6 subject areas, with 3 that are more high level, 3 that are standard. And it's 2 years instead of 3. And it also gives the ability to be able to study abroad, which, as we discussed before, I really wanted to go to the UK. So it allowed me a door to be able to do that in a more facilitated way, essentially. And my experience there was quite amazing, to be honest. It was the first time I was really using English as my primary language outside of the household. I mean, I grew up in this English-speaking household, but I was using French like at school. And here, having not even ever written an essay in English, I was then faced to kind of, let's say, still quite like high standards of performance. And it was quite challenging, but really, really fun and entertaining at the same time, because I think when you're at home, you're much more open and vulnerable, but also like the way in which you communicate, depending on, let's say, your surroundings, can be a little bit more like challenging, and you can really kind of, let's say, confront certain areas and topics, debate, etc. And so I found that having to learn French, as of kind of, let's say, 7, 8 years old, I was always a little bit on the back foot compared to some of the other students or my classmates. Like, I was terrible at grammar and these things in French. I mean, French is quite a difficult language to master. But then when I transitioned to English, I was like, wow, okay, like I'm actually not too bad at this English language speaking kind of thing. It was great to kind of be able to be maybe a bit more challenging within a conversation, and yes, see kind of how communication skills can really impact a lot of the interactions that you have with individuals, your peers, your teachers, etc. And yeah, it became a real pivotal moment before going to university.
Mm-hmm. Because you mentioned languages, some people say it even affects the personality of a person. Would you agree?
Yes, I think it depends on who you're speaking with. In terms of, funny enough, I speak English with my parents, but French with my brother. And I have friends that I could speak French with, but I speak English, and vice versa. And I do feel like the environment in which you learn that language impacts a lot of the way in which you speak it. It's true that I learned French in a very informal, primary, secondary school environment with my friends, a bit like hood-like kind of a jam. And so when I speak French, it's true that I don't believe that I have the same eloquency, but also the same level of formality that maybe that the professional life today requires of me if I'm doing an interview in French, even though like 99% of the vocabulary is in my mind. The ability to say it in, let's say, an appropriate way that would seem native to, let's say, either a lawyer or a business professional is a bit more difficult. And so I do see myself, when I speak a little bit French, kind of being a bit more informal. And thus, am I a totally different person? In its essence, I don't believe so. But in the way in which it's communicated, potentially, yeah. I mean, people have told me that I am different, or they perceive my words as being different in French than in English, funny enough. And potentially because I have a certain confidence in English, they've said that I'm more direct, or that I have a different way of communicating. Whereas in French, maybe because, funny enough, I'm thinking more actively about some of the words, the formulation of the phrases. They see it as being a bit more thought through, and maybe less direct, and more just a little bit different, which is quite interesting to then like pooling. I'm sure next question would be about the higher education side of things, but like then Spanish is a whole different way, and we won't even get started about German. But it's languages have always been quite a mystery and a great wonder.
Was it easy to choose the subject you studied then, and what was your experience with studying at all?
From higher education perspective, or it was quite easy. I knew that I wanted to get into business. I didn't specifically know which area, but I wanted to explore what it meant to enter into the professional world, what it meant to be a part of society, from like all the enterprises around us, what made the world work, etc. And I saw the best way into that was through, let's say, the private sector, through studying business. And the ability for me to do this dual degree program was life-changing. I mean, it's funny how small coincidences in life can have such a big impact. But I actually, when I graduated or ended my let's say my A-levels, my international baccalaureate, I was 1 point off going to do the degree program that I wanted at Lancaster University, which was just a Bachelor of Business Administration, which was 1 point more than I had gotten. And I was only like a point, from a micro perspective, only like 1 point off in one of my English exams to get the next grade above. And so whilst the international baccalaureate like system were reviewing that one exam that I challenged some of the areas with my parents, we were looking, okay, like what could be other alternatives if it doesn't go through. And we found within the same university and another university this dual degree program. And we decided to go for it. And when I had committed, a few days later, we got back in the mail that they had made that mistake and I'd gotten that 1 point more, which means that I could have done that simple degree, which was much more, okay, 3 years, you're doing your BBA and that's it. And having that 1 point less ultimately led me down a path which I think built up a lot of, let's say, diversity that I was able to create through being in the UK and in Spain, and kind of acquiring that third language of Spanish in the mix. So I definitely don't regret it. And I think it is a testament to sometimes when you feel like the world is against you, or some shitty situation happens, sometimes it can be for the best, because in this situation, I'm so happy that I didn't get that point, because it was an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. True. Let's do a little bit kind of a shift here. Of course, the audience is super interested in blockchain. Tell us how did you get into the blockchain space, and what are you doing today?
Yeah, so I got in to the world of blockchain technology through cryptocurrencies in 2016, 2017 in Madrid at university. A good friend of mine did Draperversity, led by Tim Draper, serial entrepreneur in the US, a big Bitcoin enthusiast. And so my friend had gotten involved in it early on, 2014 or so. And when we met at university, he was like, "Oh, Sheraz, you should check out these things." And as I mentioned, having played MMORPGs, I was like, "Oh, this like digital gold thing, okay." And I wasn't too convinced until like he repeatedly kind of came up to me and we were discussing, because I was doing a little bit of trading of like stocks, forex, etc. And he was like, "Oh, you should check this out." And he was making more alpha than me, and I was like, "Okay, maybe I should check this. Check what this is." And so then I started doing a decent amount of trading, technical analysis, looking at the charts, understanding volumes, RSI, MACD, etc. And then, of course, a good trader doesn't only rely on the charts and the data, but also on the fundamental analysis side, right? Which is the whole emotional side, which is the news, which is the macroeconomic side of things, and ultimately the projects or what is the value actually behind this asset that is trading. And that's really what got me, because I was always more of a macro slash kind of like EQ, emotional kind of person. And that was really like, I was like, wow, there's so much innovation happening in the space, so many great ideas. We're not going to go to the moon tomorrow, but there were some really cool, like crazily innovative ideas that seemed realistic and challenged a little bit the status quo, which I kind of liked. And so it was from that point that I was like, wow, like, this is new, interesting, but also something that I can make my own. When like finishing off university, I was always like, okay, like I applied to a few bags, applied to a few consultancy firms, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then this whole crypto kind of thing came along, and what I loved about it is that you could really make it a little bit your own. You could do it a little bit yourself, and you could feel part of a community in a bit of a decentralized kind of way. You didn't necessarily have to be there with that person. You could use a little bit this digital economy that was creating through social media, through other channels, to connect with other people, to brainstorm, and then to create together. And blockchain technology is rather simple from a fundamental basis, right? It's bringing trust to data management. It's a simple ledger, ins and outs, that are stacked on a chain and just allow you to have transparency, and the data is immutable, so it's not going anywhere, right? It's quite simple in what it is, but what it can allow you to do on top of that in an automated way, I mean, your imagination is the limits to that, right? And so that I really love, that there was just so many different industries connecting to it. Some of the first, use case that we saw was like, tokenization of whiskey casks, or supply chain management, or just all these different things. And I was like, wow, like I can learn about all these different industries with one anchor, which is blockchain technology. And that was really kind of what got me into, to the blockchain world.
Super interesting. When was that time, or if you frame it maybe in different kind of phases, let's say, when did you start, or what was specific the first time, when was it, and what was your first thought? You mentioned the friend, but
yeah, so that was around 2016 to 2017, that kind of period. And then I started professionally getting involved end of 2017. Now, what was my first thought? I mean, today, this is like 7 years after this, everybody has an opinion about crypto, like you speak to someone, a lot of the, let's say, retail opinions, or the public opinion is of scam, or of like distrust, or of opportunity, or many different things. But back then, the only people that really knew about it was for like the Silk Road, right? Or the dark web. Nobody really knew about it at all. And in an interesting way, if you said Bitcoin or digital currency, they're like, oh, okay, that sounds interesting. Whereas today, everyone has their own kind of little opinion to it. But it did feel a little bit like alien to a lot of people. It's like, and I think it's a little bit the way in which people see the metaverse today, or let's say digital objects within the metaverse. Like, it's a bit alien. Like, why should I pay $50 for a pair of sneakers in the metaverse, or these kind of topics, right? And I think that's a similar way in which Bitcoin or crypto assets in 2016 era kind of felt to me or to my surroundings, where people didn't really get it, and then it started to move, and then people got it a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. If you speak about Bitcoin and let's say Ethereum, what's your opinion about those two?
I think Bitcoin replicates a lot of, let's say, in a digital format, what gold represents. It's a very interesting asset class, or let's say commodity, in a way whereby we don't yet know who the founders really are or founder is. It's quite autonomous. It's evolving as well with the dev team around it. It has made a substantial impact on the world. I mean, there are two nations at the moment that have legalized Bitcoin as a legal tender, which is quite impressive to say the least, or just crazy. It's insane. And so I really do see that as an asset class of its own. And then Ethereum, is a bit the building blocks of the crypto altcoin society of today. I mean, you can't have crypto without Ethereum, at least today, or it is kind of, let's say, if Bitcoin is the godfather of crypto, or of blockchain technology, Ethereum is definitely the godmother. I mean, it's there at the top. Funny enough, there's those memes where you have that astronaut that kind of backs out, and they realize it's all Ethereum. I mean, there's so much of today's blockchain ecosystem that is built on Ethereum, which is quite crazy. And so I really see it as the building blocks. It is the reason as well why Switzerland has become such a hub for crypto, because Ethereum was founded here. Then the legislators had a little bit more time to build a digital asset regulation, classification of tokens, etc. And they were able to do that just after, but there was still some regulatory clarity when there was that altcoin boom in 2017, and that really allowed for people to be like, okay, where else can we do it? Well, where Ethereum was founded, and so it just flooded the Zug, the Swiss market, with all these projects. And so I think anyone within crypto has a lot to be thankful to Ethereum for.
I completely agree. I don't want to say, I see Ethereum in a really good position, even if there are a lot of competitors, but I think the community is really huge, and of course we had a conference, so we could met a lot of people in the past few days. Let's speak about the professional life. You mentioned you came into 2017-18 on a professional level into the space as well. So let's speak about that. What are you doing today? What are your responsibilities?
Yeah, so the first real use case of blockchain technology that kind of sucked me into that professional rabbit hole was the tokenization of assets, the ability to democratize investment opportunities for anyone, anywhere, to be able to invest, diversify their portfolio with a little as like 10 euros to be able to buy some solar panel farms, some gold, some tokenized real estate, whatever that might be. A little bit like an Amazon for investment solutions. So that was really the first use case. I joined a startup within the Crypto Valley as an intern, but then slowly but surely became their head of marketing for around 2 years. Then I did a lot of independent consultancy advisory on, let's say, the fronts of marketing, business development, and investor relations. Those were really the three axes that I helped various companies all over Europe to kind of help. And then, coincidentally, at the World Economic Forum in 2020, I met with the ex-executive director of the Crypto Valley Association, who was building a little bit of his suite, building his team. And as he was from the French-speaking part of Switzerland as well, we got along quite well, and we both saw this opportunity to grow a little bit the association and to bring it further to life. And it was an opportunity that I really grasped with full force. And then, well, the pandemic hit a little bit, so He unfortunately had to take a little bit of a step back from his executive position, which actually meant as he has a wife and kids, with me with a little bit less responsibility, I was able to kind of take part in a lot of the responsibilities that he had when his role was split into two. So I took on a lot of the business development roles, so like partnerships, sponsorships, memberships, um, and the other co-executive director took on kind of the marketing, events, administrative role, and that was a lot of like the start of really the beginning, where I ended up getting involved more and more into the space, seeing more and more of what was happening, becoming a trusted body in the space where people would come to me with various questions and I would direct them to various individuals. And I just ended up doing more and more from that within the pandemic, when I think a lot of individuals were switching off a little bit, were watching maybe a little bit more Netflix, or just kind of like trying to survive in a way, right? Which I count my blessings that in Montreux I had a safe environment where I could just get along and work. Is where then I was like, okay, there's so much happening in this space. There's so much that can be done. You know, here we're looking at like end of 2020, when I remember so vividly telling so many friends and colleagues, crypto is about to boom. Like I can feel it. I can feel it. Like this is happening. And I really did put a little bit my money where my mouth is on that sense, and founded Storm Partners, where I'm the managing partner today, which is an entity that is there to support other entities in a trusted way to enter into the Web3 space, or to help them scale in the Web3 space. And that's an adventure now that's been, what, 2.5 years that I've been on. It's been quite incredible. Learned so much, which I'm sure we'll speak more about in a bit. But yeah, so I still hold those two roles within the Crypto Valley Association and within Storm Partners, which is really the two that I work within, that are very complementary, as the CVA is a nonprofit that really helps on the events, networking side of things, etc. And Storm Partners helps really with the strategic and then implementation side of things. And so both work really well together and allow me to be able to help individuals in Switzerland and beyond access Web3.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a specific project in mind? If you talk at the beginning about Stone Partners, that you really liked, or would you really feel here I can change something?
There were quite a few, and it was all on a lot of fine tuning in various different areas, because we at Stone Partners aggregate experts together, right? So we sit lawyers next to marketeers, next to finance experts, next to compliance people, next to techies, etc., and allow them to work and sit next to each other, so that to a certain extent, you know, they can debate, they can have some, let's say, confrontations around kind of like what they're looking to build up, or what the strategy is for the client that they might be working on. But also allows to avoid for any potential future problems. You know, if like a marketeer is developing a marketing strategy without taking care of the legal and compliance side, well then, you know, you're not getting too far in the future, and you might run into some problems that some of the US firms are running into at the moment. So it was always the ability to see a macro perspective. Okay, if this firm takes this direction, these are the various hurdles that they could come across. How can we maybe just like rotate them by 1 degree, and that 1 degree of shift today is going to amplify the path that they're going to take in the future, which is going to be completely different. And our teams have really helped a lot on that front. And as that trusted body, again, it means that if they had a regulatory legal challenge, and that we're able to successfully help them in solving that, we were also able to kind of be their point of contact for other areas of our business, which meant that if one of the CEOs, the C-suite, had an issue, they could pick up the phone to me or to one of our other directors and just be like, hey, look, I have this problem. What do you think? Can you help us? And there were some instances where we're like, well, this is a bit more difficult, but we know someone that can do this. And that was the point. It was the ability to leverage all of the network that we've been curating, all of the people that we've been meeting, and saying, hey, look, we can do your referencing better than Google. If you're going to go type on Google at the moment, you know, marketing agency, or I have this like legal problem, you might find a solution, but you might also find a firm that might not be the best at doing what they're doing. If they're spending so much time on SEO referencing, they're not really spending time on client work, right?
Mm.
It was a interesting saying that I heard the other day is that the best shoe shiner doesn't have the shiniest shoes because they're busy shining people's shoes. And so I think we've been able to curate an acute ability to really support in referring to and getting the job done with the right people.
Then let's come to Crypto Valley. There will be a conference, I think, in June.
Yep.
What are the waiting there for the people who should maybe attend there?
Yeah, 1st and 2nd of June. It's going to be a great event. We've done quite a few in the past, so we have a legacy of getting this done. It's in Rootkreuz, just outside of kind of the main city of Zug. And it's very qualitative. It's not as quantitative as you might see in, Dubai or these big conferences where you have 4,000, 5,000 people. It's limited to around 800 people. We normally always sell out. And it's great from a quality perspective because a lot of the presidents, chairmen, executive bodies of a lot of the major foundations, so protocols or the major projects in the space, they come together for those 2 days and discuss what has happened in the year, discuss a lot of what they're seeing for the future, etc. I mean, a lot of the Crypto Valley's top 50 that we see every year are represented there, do come, and it's a great way to, I think, see how the crypto space and say the wider blockchain space is moving forward. So it's really great. There's also a boat party that's just quite fun. It doesn't really happen so often in Switzerland that there are boat parties, and that's a really fun one that we enjoy on the Zugersee, and yeah, it's a really great time all around, and I think it's also qualitative from the perspective of the people, the attendees, that go there. They're not just trying to hype things up or be scammy in any way. They're there to learn, to connect, and to build.
Super interesting. So people, if you're interested, you find more. We will put a link in the description and maybe see you there.
Yes, 1st and 2nd of June.
So let's come back maybe more to your private life. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest challenge and maybe at the same time the greatest success in overcoming that challenge?
Look, I'd say the biggest challenge and the biggest success is Stone Partners. The two, where the two meet, I mean, it was really challenging. And I'll give you some perspective from, like, we spoke a lot about my personal journey from like an educational perspective. I never saw myself really as being an entrepreneur. I always saw entrepreneurs as those type of people, and now I know why. But it really happened quite seamlessly, and it was definitely very tough, and still is, to be this kind of like first time founder where you have to bring people together. You have to be able to show them a certain vision of what could be, right? And you need to be careful of not trying to oversell, overpromise something which you're not sure of, but at the same time, who can be sure about anything? And so you want to be very optimistic and confident about the abilities that you have, that we could have together. But at the same time, you need to be careful, okay, like, it's people's lives that are at stake here. They're committing their time, which is your most valuable resource, to helping you grow something, but also grow your client base, and also like help your clients as well by proxy. So that's definitely it was a really big challenge doing most of that during the pandemic, right? I mean, we're just kind of slowly but surely coming out of the pandemic. I still saw people wearing masks the other day. I mean, it is still like a present kind of case for various individuals, and so building that out during the pandemic was quite an interesting experience in itself, and had a lot of challenges. Then I do see it as a big success. I mean, we have 15 team members today. We made very strong, 7-figure revenues last year. we've worked with some really big projects, within the crypto side, Singularity Net, DAO Maker, Elrond, Aave, Binance. I mean, like, we've done some really great things. We've worked with some really big companies as well, like Vodafone, Ferrari. We've helped government structure their digital asset regulation. We've helped banks with their education. I mean, we've definitely had exposure and done things that we never really believed were possible. So for me, that's a really great success.
That sounds really, really good, and congrats on that. I think it's really difficult to found an own company and to start from the scratch. Let us get maybe even a little bit more deeper in the personal life. What would be an advice for your younger self, maybe at an age of 16 to 18?
I think I was always someone that went with the flow. I was always confident in my abilities, I think from a conscious perspective, but also subconsciously. Like, I didn't just let myself go freely, but I was just like, okay, this feels good. And so I'd say following my gut feeling on certain people, on certain projects, on certain areas is very important. Don't try to push down kind of if something, if you don't feel 100% right about something, and you feel like there's something there that isn't right, try to think about what that potentially might be. And sometimes you can find it by giving it some thought, by speaking to others. But ultimately, if it doesn't feel right, don't force it. I do believe that, like, consciously we see one side of things, but subconsciously we do feel a lot of other things as well. And so I think going with the flow, trusting your gut feeling, it would definitely be one. And then just kind of like, in the words of Google, just like move fast and break things. Like, just go for it. Give it your all, your 110%. Have no regrets. You don't want to be like looking back in the future and being like, I wish I could, I wish I would. No, just like do it. And if it goes well, great. If it doesn't, well, at least you tried. And yeah, and then, I'm sure, the Sheraz at 16, 18 was probably still partying and knew nothing about the let's say, the life or world ahead that could be that person had expected. But it was really good, and I mean, if I just open that parentheses to what I was discussing before, is that the ability for me to have gone to university, to have had a good time with my friends, to have gone out as much as I wanted to done as much sport as much as I wanted to, allowed me as well today at a rather young age to make so many sacrifices on my personal time. A lot of my friends surroundings kind of have this area of that I go, what about your work-life balance? And I don't feel like I'm missing out. I don't feel any FOMO towards, oh, it's 5 o'clock now, I need to go and do something. It's like, no, like I don't feel that, because I was really able to do what I wanted to do back then, to enjoy. And now I know that it's time to build, and that I really want to be doing this. And between you and me, I really enjoy my work. So it's there. I have a great passion for it, and I really do enjoy pushing those things forward. So yeah, I mean, don't try to put yourself in a box and it's like, okay, in 10 years I want to be there, so like I need to do these different things. There's multiple roads that lead to Rome, right? So don't be stuck upon your path. If you're taking down another one and it feels right, don't hesitate to see that out.
I completely agree. I think really, really important points you made. We are now, let's say, in April of 2023. What's your outlook for this year? Let's start with the crypto level.
Crypto level, I think positive. I mean, I definitely saw this pickup of when we consolidated around 16,000 Bitcoin, going up now to around 30, 31 that we're at. Now where we could go from here, we're at one of those pivotal moments. We could go higher and then see project-based, let's say, altcoins rise as well, which I think we will for a little bit of time to kind of play catch up to some of the larger cap tokens. But then again, we have doubled from 16 to 31, right? So to potentially brace for a little bit of a downswing. Even if we have a little bit more of like an uptrend, summer is always a little bit more of a down period. So maybe we see, you know, a little bit more of an up, a little bit, then a little bit of a consolidation. And then, you know, we will hope for that bull market to come back in, you know, September, October time, when people come back from summer and they're feeling the energy again and they want to go for it. And then we see, like we did, you know, in that 2017 era of a big boom. And I think it will come. You know, enterprises are adopting crypto. More and more startups are thinking strategically about how they can bring value. The community is growing. There are more and more conferences, more and more events, more and more individuals that are learning, educating. Various governments are pushing for it. You know, the Swiss government, or let's say Post Finance, which is partially backed by the Swiss government, is enabling retail to purchase Bitcoin and Ethereum through the Post Finance, right? And so I definitely believe that this year is bullish. Now, bullish in crypto terms or in blockchain terms, well, the blockchain markets have constantly and steadily been going up since their inception. However, they're not necessarily reflected so well in the crypto markets that are volatile to emotions, right? So, you know, if the crypto markets have been going up and down, but like up, blockchain markets have steadily been going up. So we're definitely going to be going up, more adoption, and great things to come. Now, where will the crypto prices be? Could be anything, but I'm a strong believer in cryptocurrencies and let's say this market as a whole. And so I do believe that after, let's say, the calamitous year that we just had, that we will see good numbers. And I think we already have. You know, even if we consolidate at the end of the year at 30K that we're at today, that's good. We were at 16, now we're at 30. You know, that's still a 2x. When you look at other asset classes or you look at equities and the likes, they can't post the same amount of return. So ultimately, let's see, but I'm positive.
And even bigger returns if we go, let's say, 4 or 5 years back. Then yes, it's unbelievable. What's your outlook on a personal level?
Well, on a personal level, you know, going with the flow. Stone Partners' ethos is to be able to support individuals and entities with any challenge that they might have and providing them with solutions of that. The consultancy professional services, let's say, arm is very important, but there are others as well. And that's something that we're developing and have been doing so for the past year, is a company called Sky Financial that is, let's say, a regulated financial intermediary in Switzerland, which allows us to do OTC, so over-the-counter trading, and on-ramp, off-ramp of crypto. Allows us to structure financial products for our clients, so giving crypto strategies to institutional investors, so allowing them to invest, for example, in Bitcoin, in NFT strategies, in Delta mutual funds and the likes that are pegged to crypto assets, where they can custody that at their bank account with an ISIN number, like if they would other equities or other products that they have in their treasuries, which is really great. And then also like other features there on the financial side, and then a few other branches that we're currently building up. So one being a venture builder, whereby startups that we really believe in that are maybe lacking a little bit of capital, for us to kind of bootstrap them, push them forward with our services, help them on the legal side, help them with marketing, help them structuring things together, and really helping them to scale. So that's something that we've been actively doing now with 2-3 projects and looking to do more of. And then the final one, which I'm really excited for, is Decentral House, which in Geneva is lacking a little bit of a central meeting point for the decentralized community. And so that's what we're currently building up in Geneva, with a big co-working space, 250 meters squared, center of Geneva, to really bring a little bit to life the Geneva ecosystem that truly deserves it. There's so much that happens in Geneva. I feel like it's been a little bit neglected, with so much of the spotlight on Zug, Zurich, you know, Plan B in Lugano, the Bitcoin Maxis in Neuchâtel, and Geneva still has yet to have its ChatGPT moment for crypto. And we're confident that in 2023 we can give Geneva that boost and really bring that ecosystem that has so much private banks, NGOs, watchmaking industry, and many others to life. So it's going to be a super exciting year, yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes.
Sounds amazing. Last question. Where can the people reach out to you, and what's the best way?
Yeah, LinkedIn, I'm quite active user of LinkedIn. I think it's the social media channel that I use the most. So on LinkedIn, Sheraz Ahmed, you can find me quite easily. There's not too many out there. And if you're looking to find the right one, I have a lightning bolt next to my name. Yeah, then on Twitter, I post some things from time to time. I'm not such an active user, but yeah, I think LinkedIn is the easiest way. Yeah, if there's anything I can do to help, don't hesitate to let me know. Always here to give a helping hand.
So people, it's your time. Reach out. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Lisa.